wished you could talk to animals? You can. I'm here with Jody Crotty today, and we are going to talk about how to talk to animals. My name is Shannon. I'm an animal sensitive and intuitive with animal love languages. And this is Pearl, my 22-year-old feathery sidekick. He never misses an episode, right? Yeah. And he always competes with me for who's the best MC, and I think we know who the winner is, right? So I'll tell you what, I will never forget my first experience connecting with animals on an intuitive level. My very first thought, I kid you not, was everyone can do this. This is the universal language of all species. It's a sensory language. It's a language that we possess, but most of us don't know we have it. We haven't received any education. We're not aware of it. And so when it does happen, it can feel very mystic, very mystical, sometimes very confusing. And often we're very tempted to doubt ourselves. And that's exactly why I wanted to start this series, because, you know, rewind just a few short months ago, and I was in that exact same position. I really want people who love animals the way that Jody and I do to understand that you too can speak this universal language. It's your birthright. It is, it's an open door to so many amazing experiences. It's not limited to just, you know, me and Pearl, or Malty and Bruce, my animals, or Jody, you and your animals. It's, you know, you can talk to wildlife, you can talk to the plants in your home, you can talk to the insects. I heard an incredible story the other day of a woman who talked a wasp out of her house and right out the back door, which is pretty fantastic. So, you know, this is just something that we plan to keep exploring together. I'm so happy and so honored to have Miss Jody here today to talk about her work as an animal intuitive and psychic and an animal communicator. We are going to talk about how it works, what it feels like, how you know you're doing it, and how you can get started. So thank you again, Jody, for joining us here today. Very, very appreciative. Jody is becoming a good friend of mine, and I'm so inspired by her example. Jody, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you
so
much for having me. This is
of course, we're delighted. We are just delighted to have somebody else to talk to and shriek at, right? Yeah. So I guess the very first question that I always like to start out with is, when did you first realize that talking to animals is even possible?
I had actually went to a psychic medium. And it was at a friend's house. It was just something I wanted to do. And she told me that I was surrounded by animals. And I was a skeptic, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. All right. That makes sense. Because I had worked as a veterinary technician for 10 years. And animals have always been part of my life, but it was this psychic medium experience where she said, hey, you know, have you ever looked into animal telepathy? And I was like, I don't even know what that is.
What does that mean?
I don't even know what that means. Yeah. And so she kind of continued, and I still had that little bit of skepticism. And so I went home, and as we all do when we don't know something, where do we go? Shannon, we go to Google, right? We go to Google and we Google it. And so I Googled animal telepathy, and I came across this author and well-known animal communicator, Danielle McKinnon.
Oh, let me guess. Yes, it must have been Danielle McKinnon, right?
Danielle McKinnon. Yeah. And so I checked out her books. I bought both of her books, read both of her books, and I'm like, wow, this is a thing. This is like really kind of anybody can do this. We really. So then I joined her community, Be Open Community, and that is all a community on Facebook that is all intuitive people. So animal communication, psychics, mediums, astrologists, tarot card readers, everybody comes together in this wonderful community, and we learn to play. We have fun with our intuition. And that's where I first learned how to trust this intuition. And then it kind of rolled into animal communication, where she offered classes, and I'm like, I'm in 100%. Count me. And I probably within a year and a half, I became a certified soul level animal communicator. I became one of her certified practitioners. And it has been an amazing journey ever since. The animals that I've communicated with, everything from my snake. I do have a corn snake, and he's fabulous. I love him.
I've spoken to your corn snake. He's very articulate. If that pun isn't just too awful for words.
No, it is. It's very true. All the way up to horses, ducks, bears in my backyard, squirrels, stink bugs. Yeah.
Fantastic.
We all have this connection with animals that brings out emotion, that brings out these feelings of things that we don't really know are there, or sometimes we choose to dismiss that are there. And the animals are constant reminders that they're teaching us. They're teaching us more about this world than we could ever possibly imagine. So that's kind of where I first learned it was, yeah, and then kind of embraced it. And then
I'll say,
yeah, we all have it. I mean, and that's the cool part of it. Yeah.
Well, you've become one of my mentors, one of my go-to. Yeah. Speaking of animals, so here's one animal right here that we can communicate with, right? You've communicated with several of the talented intuitives and psychics in our community, haven't you? Yeah, and you always have a lot to say. So, but that's the coolest part. And you know, I before I started actually communicating with animals, I had, I will admit now, some pretty weird ideas about what it would be like. I was really kind of scared of it. I was sure I wasn't sure I would know when I was doing it. I was pretty sure that I was going to be the only one that couldn't do it. You know, we all tend to have those fears. I've discovered that we're going to be the only person on the planet that is literally unable to speak this universal language. So I'd love it if you would share, if you can, remember some aha moments from your very first time talking to an animal and kind of what that felt like. And
so when I was taking, I believe it was Danielle's like intro to animal communication, and the way that I approached it was very silly, because like you, Shannon, I was like, there's no way in the world that I can do this. And one of the aha moments I had was, I believe it was a practice to where we were connecting in with an animal. And I was getting random things. None of it made sense to me. Like the dog came in dressed as like a clown, or there was a cat that came dressed up in a tutu. And I'm like, I totally dismissed every piece of that information, every piece of that connection, because in my analytical brain, it didn't make sense. Why would a cat show me this? Or why would a cat? As I developed and practiced more, all of these symbols became relevant to their personality. So this dog that came in dressed as a clown was very much a clown and a fun-loving, energetic, spiritual soul. And this is how he presented to me. He's like, I'm going to come dressed as a clown because I'm very silly. And this cat that came in dressed in like the pink tutu was all about precision and balance and all of these things. And so there was a lot of symbolism that I didn't understand, that the animals were kind of going through my Jody filter, as I call it. And Shannon, you have a filter, so you have a filter. So whether you have multiple animal communicators, connecting in with one animal, we are all going to receive different information. So whether we see an image, we hear a song lyric, or we just know in our mind, we have that feeling, or it could be something that we feel in our bodies. It goes through this filter and we all have it. But now Shannon might have gotten, a circus tent that goes along with my clown that's in this. Again, our analytical brain would have been like, no, all I'm getting is a circus tent. So it's going through our filters of how it's going to be the greatest and highest good for us to relay that information and how that animal is presenting to us. So when I think of a lion, it might be different than what Shannon thinks of as a lion. And it's really how the animals are connected to each one of us is how we receive that information, which is really kind of cool. So yeah, that was one. Another one was when I was actually completely, I felt like I pulled information out of my butt because I was like, nope, none of this makes sense. But the person listening, it made 100% sense.
Yeah.
And then I said, are you sure? I kept saying, are you sure? And it was all learning and developing and trusting that what I was receiving was true and most beneficial for that person to hear. And I think that's where a lot of us think that we can't do it, because it's trusting ourselves and allowing that trust to kind of come up to the surface. So yeah, there's been this was during my certification as an animal technician or an animal communicator, to where I connected in with my friend's dog, and the friend started swearing at me, using
Wow.
And so I'm trying to relay this information because I'm a conduit. I'm not going to remember. I'm just kind of relaying the information, but I had to keep kind of going back to the dog to say, are you sure you want me to say it like this? Because it sounds kind of rude to me. But the answer I got when I asked that question was, you need to say it like this because she's going to understand it. I didn't listen. I was trying to sugarcoat it. I was trying to be very polite. And of course, now my person, the readee, was like, no, I don't see where that can make sense. And so here's that disconnect, because I'm letting my personality and my analytical brain kind of like fix it and sugarcoat it so it would be presentable and like pretty for this person. And she wasn't understanding it. So then I went back to the dog and I'm like, can you show me a way that I can share this with your person? And sure enough, she said it again with the swear words. And this time it was a little bit louder. So then I'm like, okay. And I had to be completely transparent and say, just so you know, this is how she's saying it to me. This is how she's presenting it to me. So then that way I was hoping that it would release a little bit of the pressure off of me that, hey, animal, turn. And as soon as I relayed that information in the way that the animal was presenting it, not the Jody filter kind of way, she started to cry and she understood the message and the connection that she was sharing with her dog. That was another moment in time to where I was like, oh my goodness, they swear. But again, it's how it's going to benefit that person. If that person wasn't going to listen to my gentle way and by the animal swearing and, hate them, then that's what's important, is allowing that person to understand that it's all for the greatest and highest good, that this animal loves them unconditionally. And this is what they're willing to do, to talk in this way to get you to understand. And that's the biggest picture that I really had to learn and trust, was that piece. So yeah. Oh, and there's multiple different stories of, animals watching people be intimate and like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Lots and lots of, well, and so anyone who is listening to either the podcast or our YouTube series, if you have ever felt like your animal is watching you and your animal knows you better than you know yourself and knows all the little things that you think you're doing such a good job of hiding, spoiler alert, they do. They do. They do. It's, I think probably one of the biggest aha moments and the biggest, coolest experiences for me was just really realizing that I've always looked at my animals. I have 4 right now. I have Pearl and my tortoise Malty and my box turtle Bruce, and I share Flash Gordon, our dachshund, with my folks. And I've always looked at them as just little people with feathers or fur or shells. And the communication piece, once I woke up and realized that this was a language that we also actually shared, I didn't have to master some language of theirs, like a combination of chirps that I didn't know how to do, and they didn't have to come into my world and master my language. We actually have a shared language. They're just as rich and colorful and much wiser, I would say, and aware and articulate in their own way. It's just that this universal language of all species, it's much more of a sensory language. It's almost like, people are from Mars and pets are from Venus. That's how I like to describe it. It's like,
I love that.
people, we are, mental creatures. We have this enormous kind of pesky prefrontal cortex that kind of gets in the way, like our filter, like your Jody filter and my Shannon filter. It kind of gets in the way and likes to, interfere with all of the sensory data, the seeing, what you were talking about, the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, touching, the gut intuition and the knowing. And animals, they come at the exact opposite extreme. So while we're trying to communicate with words, verbally, with thoughts, they're trying to communicate through the senses. And so we tend to just kind of miss each other. And that's also why, as you're listening to us, you may start to pick up that, neither myself nor Jody, it's not like we're like Danielle McKinnon, who's been doing this for 20 years. I mean, we're both quite a bit newer, because these gifts are inside of each person already. It's just, so it's like, if any of you are listening to this or watching us and thinking, oh my God, like, yeah, I want to go back to school. Like, I want to go back to the dentist for another root canal. It's not like that. You're already using this language, but you just don't know it. You're already receiving messages. You're just not quite clear maybe on how to send them accurately. A lot of times when an animal starts to present a problem behavior, or they just do something we don't understand that's consistent enough or bothers us enough or just catches our attention, this is kind of a cue to say, you're missing out on a part of this connection that we could be having. It could deepen our connection. It could help you learn and grow. It could help me be the best me. I mean, with Pearl, it's like he can't fully share himself with me until I learn how to speak this universal language. And it's not difficult. It's just kind of, I think Danielle's the one that uses this analogy. My teacher, Sonia Choquette, also likes to use it. We're tuning the radio dial. We're just tuning it away from the, so much of a verbal and a mentalization and an intellectual channel, tuning it back to our senses. I truly believe that the universal language of all species is intricately connected into our ancient shared limbic system, our survival instinct, our fight or flight system, because if you tune out for a moment in the forest, you're going to end up plated and served. So it's just, you really can't be in your future or in your past too successfully. If you're thinking about breakfast tomorrow and it's only lunchtime, chances are really good that you're going to be dinner,
Yeah.
So a big insider tip, if you will, from those of us who are already walking this journey, is just the more you tune in, those sensory signals, that is the language. Those are the nouns, the verbs, the adverbs, all those different things that we'll be using to connect with our animals. And so I think you kind of already got a sneak peek into this, but how, as far as those of you who are listening or watching, but Jody, how has talking to animals changed your life? That's a big one, right? Because that's the carrot at the end of the stick of having to do a little studying and maybe a little retuning of the radio dial.
I would say, Shannon, 180 degrees, 180 degree evolvement. I'm still continuing to evolve. But I am more confident. I'm going to say that, even though I'm not really. I definitely feel more confident in who I am as a person. And I feel through animal communication and through the teachings that the animals have taught me about myself, that I have a better understanding of why I'm here. Like, okay, why am I here? Why is my soul here? And what can I do to learn so my soul can evolve? And it literally, I can't even put it into words, Shannon, the changes and the transformations that I have gone through. Now, yes, there have been moments of ugly crying. I'm not going to lie. Self-doubt all of the time, frustration, anger, but knowing that I have animals, even my animals that I had when I was a kid, are still here with me. We are still connected. They're supporting me. They're teaching me lessons, even from the other side. even the wild animals, the squirrels that are outside who invoke this, oh my gosh, you're eating all of my bird seed. I'm getting super
Again. Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, these wild animals are teaching us lessons. And I usually say, you know, it's almost like if you were to go to a foreign country and you don't speak the language and you go to a cafe and you sit down and you just want to order a simple cup of coffee or tea or water, or we're just going to go coffee and tea. And the waiter or waitress comes over. Now, they don't speak any English, nor do you speak the language. They present the menu to you. You can't read the menu because you don't know what's on it. So how do you think you would convey that you want just a simple cup of coffee? Or do you want it? So you then have to rely on your other senses other than verbal. You could do like in the game of charades where you have a little finder and you're making noises. Yes, he may look at you funny, but it's that communication that we have to kind of understand that it's a lot bigger than just verbal. And so understanding that and trusting in those feelings that I get, it all boils down to your intuition. We're all born with this innate ability. And it just presents in a different way. And as we grow older, we tend to lose sight of that. We dismiss a lot of it. We look it up on Google, because if it's on Google, Shannon, it's got to be true, right?
Right, exactly. And then it goes into our minds and stays there, right? It doesn't filter down. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
We lose sight of what our heart really wants us to know. And in all of my lifetime, I can actually say my intuition never steered me wrong, whether it be a decision, a choice, anything. It never steered me wrong. So if I had made a choice to do something and it turned out badly, okay, now I know I'm not to do that again. So it changed my whole perspective of how I view my life. What do I want to do here on this earth? And animal communication and being able to bridge that gap and help people understand that you can do this too. If you have crazy squirrels that are driving you bonkers, you can talk to them too. You might look a little bit crazy and that squirrel might not know what you're saying, but it's that communication, it's that energy. Energy never goes away. It's never destroyed. It just changes form a little bit.
Yeah.
So my life has changed 180 degrees. And I'm excited to think that. Yeah.
I love how you talk about how it's deepened your intuition and kind of woken you up to other communication methods, other ways of receiving message, other ways of sending messages, strengthening your trust in yourself and helping you. A big piece of this journey for me has been realizing that being me is there is a community of people in this world where being me is pretty normal, because I definitely didn't grow up feeling like I fit in anywhere. And kind of, I used to have this kind of, speaking of the menu you're talking about, I would kind of pull out the menu of me, the different pieces of me based on who I was with and what I thought they would find acceptable or at least tolerable, and only show or share those pieces of me. And to now have a community of people all around the world where I can say the thing, whatever it may be, we can talk about these things, and it's not only accepted, but it's understood, it's welcome. There's a vibrant conversation going on all the time, feeling like I really do fit in, finding my people, finding my tribe. And, a lot of us come into this community wherever we enter, whether it's through Danielle's Be Open or any other. There's so many wonderful teachers and communicators in the world today doing this work. And we come in and we're kind of hesitant at first. And many of us have felt like we're still searching for our place and our people, exactly what you just talked about. And it's not like it's going to necessarily, cause us to make a sharp U-turn or a left turn or a right turn and diverge completely from the path we've been on. It's more like it's going to be a coming together and kind of a synthesizing of all the different experiences we've had, to the point where, at least in my own life, I'm like, okay, well, now I understood why I worked that shit job for 5 years and waited tables and all the things that I've learned. It's like all of those skills are now adding up to something when you add this extra piece in that kind of activates certain gifts and abilities, a natural empathy, a natural giving nature, a natural kind of super sensory awareness of the world that I've never, it's like I described it to Danielle this morning in one of our training calls, that I felt like I was driving a Yugo, like, which is going to date me. I realized that it's like a really old car, like a kind of, it was always a symbol for like a really crappy car model that was like held together with Band-Aids and duct tape. But I was really driving a Yugo, but it had a Corvette engine. And so I never understood why the car did the things that it did. It was like, it didn't behave and now I'm kind of understanding how to drive this Yugo with the Corvette engine, because I'm realizing that if the Corvette engine is on the inside, then I'm a Corvette. I just didn't really understand. I just kind of look like a Yugo, based. That was a super bad analogy. Oh my
No, I
God.
loved it.
Please forgive me. That's because you're one of my people. So, and hopefully those of you who are listening or watching, you're going to give me a pass on that one. So I guess that kind of brings us to, for those of you who are listening or watching, and you might be thinking, gosh, I kind of like to try this out. What advice, Jody, would you have for somebody who wants to give it a shot? Just give it a try. Where do you start? What do you do? Where do you go?
You follow your intuition. If you think it's crazy, and you have to really follow your intuition, it's never going to steer you wrong. And think of it as, a teacher and a student. So you're the student. You're going to learn, and it's okay to get things wrong. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you choose that waitressing job, yeah, it probably sucked and the pay wasn't that great. But
wasn't awesome.
Look at the connections that you made with the people. I bet you had customers that kind of came back and were like, hey, we really like that girl. She was super nice. So looking at it from both sides, what did I learn? What can I take away from it? So moving forward, I would just say, allow yourself to just be who you are. I know that sounds really elementary and kind of basic and dumb, but just be who you are. If you're an obnoxious, goofy, kind of like really out there kind of person, that's okay, as long as it makes you happy. If it sparks joy, if you get excited, you know that you're on the right path of whatever you need to do. And those are the things that we tend to forget because we get so dismissive. Or, you meet a guy in a bar and he gives you kind of weird vibes, then don't go over there. You don't feel good about it. It's not sparking joy. But then if you go to the same bar, and there's this hot guy, you're like, wow, he's kind of really intelligent. I want to go talk to him. And there's that bit of excitement or curiosity. Curiosity is another big one too. If it invokes curiosity in you, like you want to learn more about it. Okay, well, do I really have it? And you start questioning, that is something that you should follow up on. So the following up on joy, excitement, curiosity, allow those things to come out of you, and don't dismiss them so quickly. Like I said, the guy in the bar, if he's giving you weird vibes, okay, that's cool. Be polite and be like, all right, I'm going to go over here. It just might not be your thing. And usually that is your innerness, your intuition coming through to say, all right, this is not happening. Embrace it, allow whatever makes you happy to come through. I say that, and it's funny because I'm guilty of this. I'm totally guilty of not following things that make me happy. Because again,
well, we all are to some extent, Yeah.
And that's what it is about. But I think moving forward, if you can find something that sparks that curiosity, sparks that joy, that excitement, that kind of gets you all hot and bothered a little bit in a good way, go for it. That's where you start. and allow yourself to say, okay, whatever comes on this journey, whatever comes on this path, I'm going to embrace it because I know I'm learning something. I'm learning more about me. So that was really
Absolutely.
smart. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love what you shared right in the beginning, about you heard the term, animal communication, and you said, I don't know what that means. And so you headed over to Google and boom, and so that would be another suggestion. That's exactly how I found Danielle. I have always been somebody who hires animal communicators, and not somebody who ever thought she was, because I thought that I honestly, I'll confess this, I thought that an animal communicator was somebody special, i.e. someone who wasn't me, somebody
Right.
who was born with an extra ability. Like some people are good at math, which I wasn't, some people are good at science, which I wasn't. Some people are, I was, I happened to be good at music, but it's not like that. It's a birthright. It's a universal language. It's a language we can all tune into. Not all of us are going to feel led or called or prodded or prompted to create enough structure to pursue it as a career path, or a service path. I've met communicators who have learned how to use this language because they're passionate about working with a certain animal rescue or charity. I have met people who, a lot of people come into our community because they've lost a soul animal and they're grieving, and they want to reach out and just find out if that's even possible. Can I still be connected? Because I just don't think I can live without this beautiful, beloved spirit who's passed out of my life in the physical form. There are so many reasons to learn a new language, and there are so many vehicles for that. I know Danielle McKinnon has lots and lots of videos. We're doing this series. I'm featuring lots of different animal communicators from all walks of life who have very different paths and methods. And so maybe something that you hear, maybe listening to Jody today, will spark you to head over to her website and learn more. It's just trusting your gut. I will admit, when I first started searching for a teacher, my mentor, Sonia Choquette, she said, it really doesn't matter as much as you think it does which teacher you choose, because your soul will teach you. You will actually awaken you to what you already know inside. And she was right. Now, I completely resonate with Danielle and with the Be Open community. It's how Jody and I met, and it's a beautiful, vibrant community. But there are lots of communities out there. And so this is really your first experience of this universal language, which is so intuitively based, is to start to notice, who do I resonate with? Who do I want to learn more about? Who makes me a little jealous? Who's doing work that I'd really like to do? Who has a philosophy in life or a background that matches mine? And these are the ways that we start to kind of narrow down our search field and tune into a mentor or a guide or a teacher who really resonates for us personally. Because I promise you, there are enough animal communicators out there that you will be able to find your mentor, your teacher. And one of the things that has been so valuable, Jody, you awakened me to how my information was coming in a way that I didn't even get, studying with Danielle. It was like how quickly and how clearly, and so there are lots and lots of mentors, lots of teachers, lots of inspiring fellow communicators you'll meet. And it's also a really great resource to have, because sometimes when we're speaking with our own animals, speaking of which, it's really nice to, bring in another communicator and be able to connect, because sometimes we just get really close to a situation and we don't always, we can't always hear as clearly as we can when we're speaking with someone else's animal. And that may be a little departure from the topic of this blog post, but just a couple of little tidbits, little tiny bits of appetizers for thought, so to speak, as you're considering, who to study with, whether you want to learn from a book or take a class or join a community, or study online with YouTube or another online teaching course. Really looking for a community to help you build your skills and help you kind of learn the things that maybe you don't know are either standing in your way or are missing or just simply aren't clear to you. So Jody, I'd like to end today with if you could tell us a little bit more about what you do, how to reach you, your different programs and services. And I think you have a book coming out. I'm not sure about that. Maybe that is yet to be revealed, but if you would just let our listeners and our viewers know how to reach out to you, that would be awesome.
Sure. So my website is my name. So you can go to www,
right?
Yeah, just Jody Crotty, JodyCrotty.com. That's my website. You can follow me on Instagram, which is Jody Crotty Intuitive, or you can find me on Facebook, which is Jody Crotty. Again, it's my name. You can Google my name and
we got it.
Find me anyway there. So yes, I do have a children's book actually coming out.
So exciting.
This coming fall called
Oh my goodness.
You Talk with Animals. And so this book is really, really the first book in a series teaching children to embrace their intuition and allowing themselves to see, hear, feel, know all of these things that are kind of going around. And I mean, in nature, not just going around. I know
not that kind of going around.
Not that kind of going around, like in nature. And so this book is all about animals, communication, and intuition, and teaching children that it's okay if they want to go out and have a pet rock. What do you think that pet rock would say to you? Or the stink bug. So all of the characters in the book are animals that I've actually communicated with. And so it's the first in a series that's going to be allowing children to really embrace their intuition. I just wish that I had a book like this.
Yeah.
And Shannon, you can probably say the same thing too. Now that we're adults, I really wish some type of book that would allow me to feel comfortable with, you know, going out and talking to fairies or going out and talking, you know, to the woodland creatures, saying that that's okay. And that is actually true to who you are. So that's what I'm hoping that this series of books will bring to children. I'm also part of a wonderful organization. So those people who are listening, a few animal communication colleagues and I have created the Animal Communication Collective.
I love this group.
Website just went live.
I love this group. I have witnessed you live, and you are just it's still the three of you. Is it the three of you?
Oh, actually, we've broadened it a little bit.
You have more. You're just phenomenal. The three of you, the three founding members, you're just phenomenal live.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. So tell us more about this. Tell us about your new website.
Oh, yeah. So the Animal Communication Collective is a group of animal communicators that come together to help nonprofit animal rescues raise funds virtually. So we offer a 90-minute event, and it's open to really anybody who wants to get involved with animal communication. So all of the proceeds from this event stays within the organization that we work with. I just actually hosted the New Hampshire SPCA, had a Do You Talk with Animals event that was raised over, I believe it was $2,500 for the New Hampshire SPCA. So we're giving back. Our Animal Communication Collective is giving back to these organizations who, especially during COVID, weren't able to do any type of fundraising to raise funds for these animals. So we're a global organization. We've done so far, I think, maybe 5 different types of events all over the world. So definitely check us out. It's the Animal Communication Collective. And you can find us, you know, again, Google Gotta love
Right,
Google.
Google's just so wonderful. So if you're
Google.
listening or you're watching and you have an animal-based charity or a nonprofit organization and you need a little extra oomph for your fundraising efforts in the coming year or two, this is a great organization. Like I said, I've witnessed you guys live. It's very engaging. It's very empowering. It's really it's a good time. How about that? It's a good time. And your donor base and your supporters and your staff and your volunteers and the recipients of your services, it really can draw your whole community together. So we give it 5 feathers, right, Pearl? We give it 5 feathers, our highest rating. 5 or 50 feathers, our highest rating. Yeah, we sure do. Jody, thank you so much for being here with us today. You're a wonderful mentor and friend of mine. I was so excited when you said yes. Then you agreed to be a part of this series. You can find me, and that's awful grammar. But you can find Pearl and myself, and Malty and Bruce and Flash Gordon at animallovelanguages.com. We'd love to hear feedback, or you can post it below in the show notes. Let us know who you'd like us to interview next, who you'd like to hear about or from, how you like the series, questions that you have. We're always adding and expanding, and how we can best serve you.
Only happens.
Oh my! That, I believe, was a blown transformer, and I believe that was probably it usually happens once a year, and I think a squirrel just bit our transformer and killed it. I know, it's an awful thing to say, but that kind of an epic pop like that is usually I don't know what it is about that transformer. I think they're trying to nest in it or something.
So what are we going to say? What can we learn from this?
What can we learn from this? Don't bite the transformer wires. Oh my goodness. Okay, we need to. So that's.
Girl.
Oh well, it's okay. You'll recover. So thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. We look forward to being with you next time. And don't wait. You can start talking with your animals today just by noticing, just by tuning in. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you know? And what is your gut telling you? JodyCrotty.com and animallovelanguages.com. We will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.